Do your own hunting. We stopped at the last service station. What have you been drinking?
Well, if we don't stop, you are gonna have to mop up the floor. What do you say?
Loafers, give me that map. This doesn't look like the A1.
Well, what does an A1 look like?
Dinosaurs, I don't know.
Well, I've never seen an A1 in my life before. How am I supposed to know what it looks like?
I'm a fairly adventurous sort of guy, but you don't normally find me wandering around on a North Yorkshire beach in the middle of the night in the freezing cold. But we've got a brilliant Great Dinosaur Trail scoop, because a paleontologist, Philip Manning, has found a plesiosaur in the cliffs here, and there's a race against time and the tide to get it out. Philip, how's it going?
Brilliant, Chris. Come on up and have a look.
Thanks. Nearly there. Really looking forward to seeing this.
Well, here it is, Chris. Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah. That's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you can see the backbone, the vertebra of the animal, and it's absolutely superb. The preservation is not brilliant, but you can see what's there, and it's really
You can
good.
even see all of the different sort of texture here, where the structure of the bone's still there, isn't it?
That's it. This one has been weathered by the sea, and that's why we're having to get it out so quickly. And yes, this has weathered away a bit of the bone, and you can see the actual structure of the bone. It's been preserved. It's absolutely superb.
This bit is dead easy to see. This is a very obvious vertebrae here.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what about the rest of it in here? I mean, that looks like... Is that bone material there?
Yeah, that is a rib you've still got in the cliff.
Oh, yeah.
And there's also ribs poking out from underneath the vertebra already.
Oh, I
But,
see. Oh, there, that blackened piece there, yes.
That's it. And they continue into the cliff.
Phil, what would this animal have been like when it was alive?
Well, I've got a model, so I can actually show you what this thing looked like. It's quite remarkable, really, how strange these creatures were. With an incredibly long neck, barrel-like body with the diamond-like paddles, and at the end of this long neck, quite a small head, really, but armed with incredible teeth. This is one that's particularly nice, and you can see how long, backwardly curved and sharp this thing is. Absolutely superb for catching fish, because basically once it's grasped hold of a fish, that fish is not going to get away.
What about the head? I mean, you've got the teeth. What about the rest of the skull? Where could that be? I suppose it's either down there or it's right up there, isn't it?
It is somewhere in this cliff, and we would love to find it. It's a surprise for any paleontologist.
There's quite a few tons of rock there, Phil. And I'm going to leave you to it.
Very wise.
Thanks ever so much.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye then.
Hi, Lauren.
Morning. Is that what you found last night?
Look at it. It's wonderful, isn't it?
What are these bits?
Well, these are the flanges that would have been on the outside of the backbone, and muscles would have attached to these to help the animal swim through the water. But it's a beautiful specimen, isn't it? Of course, I've only borrowed it because, like all responsible amateur paleontologists, I'll have to give it back to the experts so they can learn all about it. Anyway, what's on the computer about plesiosaurs?
Plesiosaurs. Fierce predatory marine reptile. Much in common with ichthyosaurs. Flourished in the sea during Jurassic times. What's that noise?
Hey, what's happening?
I thought it would be a lot nearer. According to the data, the T-Rex should be really close. Really close.
It's really misty. Mind you. Ah!
It's found it.
That is a pretty fair guess, I would say.
Except for its arms, they're tiny.
They couldn't even reach its mouth.
So how to eat?
It would just lean forward and rip chunks of meat off with its jaws.
Ugh. Those jaws. Ugh.
Just unbelievable.
It could swallow a polar bear in one gulp.
Its breath stinks.
I'll bet. Apparently, the bacteria level of a T-Rex's mouth was so high, it had a septic bite. It would bite its prey, infecting it, and the prey took several days to die.
Long time to wait for a meal.
Hey, it's coming for me. That's it. I've had enough. Shut it down.
All right, okay.
Meanwhile,
Dig
back in
lines
Wyoming...
On the ground. Walk more slowly, look in the ground. You're looking for bone fragments, brittle fragments with bone texture. Don't look for shape, look for texture.
But this is not how I imagine dinosaur hunting at all.
Nope, not like there. Look at this. That's not a rock. See that texture there? Cellular texture. Those are bone cells, hey? It's just like a hunk of ox bone from a butcher shop, except it's heavier. That's a piece of very big Jurassic dinosaur bone. Here's another here.
What do you think it could be?
That size, some sort of brontosaurian, Brontosaurus, Diplodocus, basically meat on the hoof for raptors.
Is this of any value at all?
That by itself, no, we can't get an ID, but if you start, when you find a piece like this, you start crawling. You don't walk, you crawl, and you try to find a spot where there's more pieces. And then if you see dozens of pieces, you crawl slowly. What you're hoping for is to find hundreds of pieces, indicating that somewhere in this rock, eroding away in the Wyoming rain and sun, is an entire skeleton. We have just such a spot up there.
Let's go. Wow, Bob, that's a bone of some magnitude.
Oh, that's a wonderful bone. This is a gorgeous bone. Two bones, actually. This is the lower leg, right side of a giant plant-eating dinosaur, and that's the knee. Backside of the shin, covered in life with a huge calf muscle. Down here, the ankle.
Stop teasing me. What species?
This is Brontosaurus.
Not a patasaurus, then?
Two names, same dinosaur. I prefer Brontosaurus because Brontosaurus means thunder lizard, and if you weigh 70,000 pounds, good name.
How did it end up here? I mean, it's upright. That's one feature.
Sad story. This sandstone is a flood deposit. This was deposited 140 million years ago during the rainy season. Probably in a few hours, this tremendous swoosh across the floodplain. This brontosaur was walking at the time, jammed its right hind leg and left front leg right through this sodden mass of sand, got bogged down and died right there in the storm.
What about the raptors, though? Because is there any chance that they would have feasted upon what remained of this animal here?
That's a really important point. This is free meat if you're a raptor, and you'd be able to smell it miles away. There'd be a chunk of meat coming out here. The whole thing would weigh, what, about 600-700 pounds. A raptor could pick that up and drag it. Why would it drag it? This will attract other carnivores, other scavengers, a big hunk of meat. Most predators today drag the found meat to a lair where they can protect it and feed their young. We've got pieces of meat this big and bigger at 5 or 6 sites scattered all around this valley, where thighs and shins and elbows and arms and necks and tails have been dragged in from different directions and chewed up in one spot, and the raptors left tooth marks on the bones and broken teeth where the tooth crown would snag against the bone, and their baby teeth and adult teeth. So we have the concentration spot where the meat was carried in.
The removal of bones is a very delicate and time-consuming process. First, they're wrapped in silver paper. Next, they're taped up, properly identified and labelled. Then they're coated in plaster so they can be carried away without crumbling. This one has been reopened. And lastly, it's being carefully cleaned. Okay, so the bones have been found, they've been very carefully removed, painstakingly preserved, catalogued and identified. It's now time to re-articulate the skeleton, to rebuild it so we can begin to see what this animal actually looked like. Well, that is a very time-consuming and very expensive process, and critical mistakes can be made. Take a look at this iguanodon, which was remounted in 1906. We now know that iguanodon's tail wouldn't have been draping down along the ground like this. You see, the scientists then ignored these incredibly powerful tendons here, and they would have kept the back of the animal and its tail straight and therefore up off the ground. But it was a long time ago, we'll forgive them that, but just look at this. They actually broke the tail vertebrae here, here and here just to make it fit, just to make it bend down like this, and that's a bit naughty. But if now we know better, why hasn't that Iggy been remounted? Well, it's a task that would take years and cost in the region of £15,000, so we have to allow our museums time to catch up with modern thoughts in paleontology, but they are getting there. This is the Diplodocus in the Natural History Museum in London. And when I first came here as a kid in the 1960s, I'd have been tripping over its tail down here somewhere. Then in 1993, it was remounted where it should have been, up here swirling around above my head, and it looks truly superb. But you know, it is just a skeleton, just a lot of dusty old bones that was once a great animal. And to learn more about that animal, we're going to have to put some flesh back on these bones. We're going to do just that in next week's programme and come face to face with Diplodocus.
And I put the flesh back on this bone and come face to face with a Rubberosaurus. Just kidding.